Hello and welcome back to the One United podcast. I'm joined as ever by Henry. Henry, how you doing?
Pretty good, you?
Yeah, pretty good. Nice to have a little break from United. But we're also joined by, the other Henry, United Henry on Twitter. How you doing, mate?
Not too bad, thanks, mate. It's good to be back. Feels like it's been a while since I've been on here, so it's quite nice, refreshing. So good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have you, mate. So we'll obviously international break. We've not got that much to talk about United-wise, but obviously the main news coming recently is that OLE is set to land himself a new contract at Old Trafford. So just initially, Henners, I'll come to you first. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not happy. you know my thought. Right? Okay, I'm not happy for one main reason, and that is that we did this with Mourinho, gave him a new contract, and then lo and behold, he messed everything up. So, we had to pay him off like 13 million to get out of his contract, which is just ludicrous. I don't know why we do it. And then Solskjaer's not nailed on to get top four at the moment. I know people say we should get it from here. Yeah, fair enough. We're not nailed on to win a trophy because obviously dumped out the FA Cup and the Europa League is going to be no easy task. So it's a weird situation where, I know fans will back him and that's fine. You can back him, but giving him a new contract now, a very, very naive decision.
So fair to say you're against the idea at the minute. Then I'll go to you, Henry, next. Then are you happy about this decision? It's pretty much a foregone conclusion, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. It's expected at some point now. I think we've all moved on from Poch sort of hanging over us every day. We've moved on from that time where every week it looks as if Solskjaer's going to be sacked. So I think it's not a massive surprise to get a new deal. I just think how important is it really? What does it actually mean, a contract these days? Obviously we saw, as you say, as Henry just said, with the payout and the Mourinho thing, ended up being a poor decision. And not only that, I think it proved that a contract doesn't really mean much backing wise, at least with the Glazers. We all expected Mourinho to get a really good backing in that summer after that new contract. I think that was the positive thing that a lot of people saw with it. They said, it's good that we've given him this new contract. It means we'll probably go and spend in the summer and he'll get to, realise his vision and get the players he wants for his philosophy. That didn't happen at all. Obviously, Grant, Fred, Dallo, the infamous window, and you do think about that now. You worry about that with this OLE contract that's imminent. Do I think he deserves it based on footballing merit? I'd probably say yes. I think, this season he's done very well. I know obviously we've had these blips. I think the Champions League was obviously I've said it many times before. I think was a bit of a disgrace, to be honest. Maybe a bit heavy wording, but it was pretty poor. And the fact we're out of the FA Cup as well, another dampener on the season. Really, I'd like to have gone a bit further in that and challenge. The infamous semi-final loss probably would have arrived, but it'd been nice to at least go and try and challenge a bit more for that. We've still got the Europa League. We could get knocked out of that in the next round. You just don't know because obviously. We've seen what happened in the FA Cup, but I think, league-wise, we've done pretty well, all considering, really. So I think based on the whole idea of Solskjaer staying, I think, he deserves to stay, and therefore, you could say he deserves a new contract, but I don't know how much you can really read into it with regards to backing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. I'll send it back over to you, Henners. On the same sort of line of thought as Henry was just mentioning, do you think that OLE has warranted this new contract, given what he's done at United?
No, not at all. Why at this club? I'm not saying Ole's failed because he I don't know. If he doesn't win a trophy this year and we don't get top four, which people seem to think that top four is a given this year, we're still in a race for top four. Because if we lose one game, it's all open again, as it always is in the Premier League. So. We're in a situation now where if he doesn't get top four and doesn't get a trophy, it'll have been a failure. And we've got knocked out of another trophy. The Champions League thing, people have overlooked it now because we're in the Europa League. That was horrendous. Başakşehir are in a relegation battle in Turkey. They're in a relegation battle and we lost to them and it cost us our place in the Champions League. And people, say Liverpool and Chelsea have had dreadful seasons. Fair enough. But I'll tell you what, they're still both in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. We're not. So, it's one or the other. And we're doing okay in the league, still been inconsistent. We beat City and lost to Sheffield United. That pretty much sums our season up. So, am I confident about games coming up, like the lower games like Brighton? Am I confident about those? Absolutely not, because we could get rolled over, beating 1-0. And if we do that, then it's back to square one again. So we've got to be really careful here. He hasn't deserved a new contract because he's been, as far as I'm concerned, in 6 competitions that were winnable, and he's won nothing. What is it? 4 semi-finals now? Nothing. Why would you reward failure? We wouldn't do that with another man.
I think it's a fair point, isn't it? We're all, thinking, we can go far in the Europa League, but it's not a competition we should have been in this year, is it, at all?
No.
So I'll come to you next, Henry, then. What sort of dictates the success of this season? What would we need to do from here for you to think this has been a good season for Manchester United?
Well, from the beginning, I think, my sort of goals and what I wanted from the club was set out from an early point, and that was I wanted to see progress in the league. So whether that's, third again and closing the gap to, City and Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool, there isn't a gap to close. They're below us at this point. But, that's what I wanted at the beginning of the season. Or even, second would have been magnificent in my eyes. And that's why I get a bit frustrated. I think people, lay into Ollie. It's just... League-wise, I don't know what more you could really want. This Manchester City side is absolutely fantastic. I don't think anyone could deny that, and no one would say that our squad's as good as theirs. No one would say that we have any right to be anywhere near them anyway. Put Max Allegri in charge, for example. Is he going to, with this squad this season, is he going to get close to City? I struggle to see anyone getting close to that City side. Similarly with Mourinho in 2018, finished second, did a magnificent job with that squad. Was still nowhere near it. I find that very comparable to Ollie this season, and there is still a chance at silverware. We as much as you say we shouldn't be in the Europa League, we're in it now. We've got to beat who's put in front of us. We've done that thus far in that competition, and there's a chance that we can go all the way in that. So I just think, the goals for me are clear. Second and the Europa League would be a really good season in my eyes. I just think I'm not sure what more people want really, especially sort of league-wise in what is, the place where, consistency and where the real test really is, because it's not off single tie. So I think, there is apparent progress there.
Should we do quickly a little comparison between Chelsea and United this season, right? Okay. So Lampard, poor, worse than Solskjaer in terms of management. And that's absolutely fair to say, I think. Still did well in the Champions League, weren't doing so well in the league. Lost his job. We're comparing ourselves to these top sides, and then so we had a massive drop off in like November, December, where we were really poor, and then we went on a really big run in the Premier League and got ourselves to second, and we've stayed there ever since. So fair enough, but we've gone from Champions League to Europa League, out of every other cup. Getting knocked out by Leicester, who are missing 5 first-team players. And had to play. They've had to resort to changing their formation because they haven't got enough players to have 4 at the back. So we've gone out, and everyone's going, okay, just move on to Europa League. Chelsea just got rid of their manager when they weren't performing. Just got rid of him. They brought in a top class manager. Lo and behold, what happens? They start picking up points. I don't think have they lost the game under him yet? I don't think so. So it just goes to show what top managers can do. And there's a question in there from Jamie, which said, what other clubs would take Ole? No one. Can you tell me a Premier League club now that would go, yeah, I'll have Ole Gunnar Solskjaer? I don't think you can, because they go with experienced managers that are, of a top class level. You're looking at Thomas Tuchel, who's one of the, top managers in Europe over the last 5 years. Chelsea had got him in on a year contract essentially and said, okay, change everything round. And he has, so people seem to just let Ole get away with stuff. And he's gone from saying, oh yeah, I want to win stuff, to, I believe the comment a couple of weeks ago was, trophies don't define you as a manager or as a team. Yeah, they do. They do define you as a team or a manager, because success is what defines. That's why Mourinho is one of the top managers there is. He gets shit for the way that he plays football, but I tell you what, he's won like over 25 trophies in his career, one of the most successful managers ever. So I don't know why people their allegiances are so much to Ole. I look at it in a neutral point of view, whereas if this was another manager, he would be getting hell right now for being out of the FA Cup and out of the Carabao Cup and out of the Champions League. He'd be getting hell. But Ole gets away with it because he's a club legend. Therefore, the owners get away with it. It's just honesty.
Yeah, I think one I won't jump to the defence of Ole here, but what I will say, sort of addressing that question, is I think this case of Ole at United is specific to United. That's why no other club really in the Premier League would take him. I think by no means is Ole the final solution for United in terms of winning trophies and becoming a powerful team again. But I think he's doing a good job of being sort of a stopgap. I think he is like a long-term temporary manager sort of thing in my eyes anyway, in that I think his quote was, trophies don't measure progression, which in terms of like the club behind the scenes, I think that's fair enough. I think, for him I think he was brought in to just fix everything that Mourinho did behind the scenes. And now, once the club is, once the club's in a sort of stable position, then if Ole's not performing on the pitch, you get rid of him and bring someone new in. But I think that's why no other big club would take him, because Ole is such a specific case to United. He's someone who understands the club. He's going to understand what to do behind the scenes. He's learned from probably the best man manager in the history of football. And I think we're seeing that. We're seeing everything sort of correct itself behind the scenes, especially team-wise. There's not half the team not wanting to play for United anymore. But I completely take your point. He's not a manager that United should be striving for success-wise.
Have we progressed on the pitch, though? Do you think we've progressed on the pitch? Because we're now going to go from second to second and set to not reach Mourinho's points total that season, and Mourinho got the Europa League that season as well. So it will be it's something
we're definitely going to talk about, and I'll hand it over to Henry because I know you're a big fan of Mourinho, aren't you? But I think, in my opinion, you take progression from where Mourinho left us, not from where Mourinho was at his peak. Because if anything, Mourinho brought us back the couple of steps that Ole is now having to make up. So I think if you measure progression as from where Mourinho was at his peak to where we are now, I don't think that's quite fair, because Mourinho is the reason why we took 5 or 6 steps back. So in that sense, if you measure where we were when Mourinho left to where we are now, yes, we've seen progression. What do you think on that, Henry?
I think, I'll always, say that Mourinho was successful, and that's why, if we get anywhere near what Jose did with us, I'd consider it a success. I think I've got to stay sort of consistent with that. If I'm going to say that Mourinho's second place was admirable, which I really think it was, then if we finish second under Ole, then I'm going to say the exact same. That season under Mourinho, we may have got more points. For me, irrelevant. I think, points relative to the season which you get them. I don't think you can ever compare points tallies across seasons. I'm pretty sure in 2018, Jose had more points than the treble winners or something ridiculous like that, which is, I think that proves you can't really read too much into the points thing. That season as well, we didn't win a trophy in that 17-18 season. We lost the FA Cup final in a pretty horrible way. Terrible game of football.
We won the Europa League in that season.
No, that was 16-17, didn't we? We won League Cup. What was it? League Cup, Europa League, Community Shield. But lost the FA Cup final to Hazard. But for me, that was still a successful season. And I think, it was then down to the Glazers to take the mantra and, spend the money and try and close that gap to City, which was a big gap because, that City side, as they are this year, were very, very impressive. Obviously, I think that was the best Premier League team ever, points-wise, the Centurions or whatever it was. So, I think, it's now down to the Glazers. I think we're in the similar position to what we were then, really. Coming off the back of, hopefully we can end the season, get second or top 4, whatever. And then it's down to the Glazers to give him the backing. Whether or not, the current Solskjaer squad compared to the Mourinho squad, I think you could have debates over that. I think, to be fair, Mourinho's squad was pretty dire. It was Jones and Smalling playing centre half for most of the season. Not I'm dissing Chris Smalling, by the way. I was quite a big Chris Smalling fan, to be fair. But, if you compared it on paper, I think a lot of people would say that this team's probably better. But I think, that's what I'd say. I think I'm just going to be consistent with what I've said. I was happy with the second under Mourinho. I then wanted to see more progress. We didn't get to see that. I'm happy with second currently under Solskjaer. I just want to see that backed and seen, give him some money and see what we can do next season.
Well, Henners, I'll be interested to see what you think then. Just purely as a definition of progress, are you taking it from the peak of Mourinho and that's why you don't think we've progressed, or do you think that the progress hasn't been as much as we think after Mourinho left? I'm just trying to understand your viewpoint.
Okay, behind the scenes, there's been progress. Not going to deny that, because there has. There's a new structure in the club, although I think people are overstating how much of a difference it's going to make, because I think you still answer to the owners who are always going to say yes or no to the amount of money that you want. Maybe negotiations will be a little bit better this time. But on the pitch, the thing is, we can play some fantastic football on the pitch and some counter-attacking, brilliant football, but we're having the same old problem as we always had under Jose, which is we can't beat low block teams. We always lose against the lower sides. So the problem is that we've gone from being inconsistent to inconsistent. So I always put it to people, if this wasn't Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in charge, okay, if this was another manager, say Allegri, okay, and the performances were like this, we'd be on his back saying, hold on a minute, losing to Sheffield United at home and putting in a 0-0 draw, or 1-1 draw against West Brom away, that's shambolic. You shouldn't be doing that, and you shouldn't be going out in the FA Cup to Leicester, with a half-strength team. They're not that good of a side. So he makes rookie errors that you can see, late substitutions, little details that you pick up on eventually as you're going throughout games, and you think, this guy's still learning on the job. No other manager in that top 6, let's say. Okay, so Rodgers, Guardiola, Klopp, Thomas Tuchel. Let's put even Arteta. I don't think he's got a bit more. Seems to have a bit more tactical knowledge when he changes things around. And no, hear me out. They change things around in European games, especially, and it works. So we haven't got a top manager, whereas the other teams that are around us, maybe not even Arsenal, the other teams that are around us, Jose then, the other teams around us, they have. Jose's in the cup final and he's been called he's not a success at Spurs. That's what they wanted, isn't it? They wanted a cup final. They wanted a trophy. So, and Arteta's, I think he's beaten Ole once this year and drawn once, isn't he? So it's one of those where it's two managers that are inexperienced fighting against each other. But as far as the other top 6 go, they've got top managers and we haven't. I don't think. Ole's still learning on the job, and that Leicester game proved it.
There's a question for you then, Hannah. Who would you take if Ole goes?
Well, the problem we had is we had the chance to get Poch in like 3 or 4 months ago before he went to PSG, and we didn't take it. So that's off the table. Allegri is always an option that I'll look at and think, that guy, the problem we have is we don't know how to defend at times. We look clueless. So giving the ball away in our own box and whatever. Coaches like Allegri don't take any shit like that. They don't allow that to happen. So would I take him? And is he more defensive? Yeah, he's more defensive, but I take him 100%. He's a winner. He knows how to win. Managers that win trophies usually go to other clubs and win trophies because they know how to win. So we've gone through 2.5 years of not winning anything again. And if that continues to the end of the season, people will be calling for his head, and rightfully so, because it'll be another trophyless season. So we have to win the Europa League now. But my first choice in terms of managers out of a job would be Allegri at the moment.
Would you? My worry with Allegri is we get another Van Gaal or another Mourinho who, yes, wins a trophy, but the football is that unwatchable that the fans turn on him, because that's what happened with Van Gaal. That's what happened with Mourinho a bit. Juve
got to 2 Champions League finals under him, and watching the football, it was quite good. I thought I quite liked it. And then Cristiano Ronaldo did not move to Juventus to go and play under Andrea Pirlo. He moved to play under Allegri because he's a top manager and top players get attracted by top managers. Pogba going to United largely because of Mourinho, not just because of United, largely because of Mourinho. Same with Zlatan as well. Big managers attract big players. So if you're going to get in a manager, you don't get in another rookie. You get in a top manager, and players will think, yeah, you know what? I fancy playing under him because he's a good manager. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with the fact that you can't get rid of Ole and bring in another sort of rookie. If you get rid of Ole, you've got to bring in an established manager. But what are your sort of thoughts on this, Emre?
I don't know. I do really like Allegri, to be fair. As you guys know, my opinions on Ole have changed massively over the last couple of years. 2019, I was massively on his back. I was pointing towards the inexperience and everything like that. As soon as he finished third last season, I think I've backed him, and therefore I think it feels a bit wrong talking about the next manager when I think the current one's done a decent job, all things considered, in my opinion. But yeah, no, I do like Allegri. I think Henry makes a good point with the pulling power of big managers, which is very true. As you've cited the examples there with Mourinho, which were very present. The first window under Mourinho was very good. Obviously, sold a really good project, and people bought into that. But I still think the transfer windows under Ole haven't been terrible thus far. We'll have to see what the next one's like. So I think it's a bit. We're going into this new sort of Mourinho territory of a summer, which could get messy and be massively disappointing. But Edinson Cavani, who's an absolute winner, bought into this as well. He's bought into the Ole project. I think Donny van der Beek, obviously whether or not that's been a successful signing, he was another player that obviously was wooed by the whole Ole project. So I think, and same with Amad Diallo and other players like that. Obviously, Manchester United themselves will always have a pulling power as a club, absolutely massive club, biggest club in the world, is always going to have that sort of pulling power. But yeah, they've all bought into the Ole project. But no, I understand your point completely with the pulling power. To be honest, I don't know who else I'd look to outside of Allegri. I think, it was always Poch and Allegri, really, wasn't it? Who were being sort of bounced off as the two names. Someone in the chat mentioned Conte. I mean, I love Antonio Conte. When he was at Chelsea, I couldn't stand him running up and down the touchline. Got right on my nerves, especially that 4-0 game when, Jose had to get in his ear and tell him to stop because he was being a bit embarrassing, which was quite funny. But no, I do like Conte. I think he's a really, really good manager. I love the fact he's got a really clear and definitive philosophy that he would definitely implement. I think he'd stick to his guns and go with what he believed in. Obviously not the most politically correct manager, and that could end in tears at United. It wouldn't surprise me if it did. But, a bit like the Mourinho thing, it would expose the board for what they really are and the fact that they're extremely poor, which would be a positive thing. But yeah, for now, I'd say, I back Ole. But yeah, those are the two names I'd probably say I'd like to see afterwards.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Well, just one last thing on Ole then that I know you, Hannah, specifically wanted to talk about. It's about how he deals with injuries because, Rashford's been sent home from England because he's not fit to play. Greenwood the same. And, we are getting more and more injuries as the season builds up. Now, I'll come to you first, Hannah. Is this just the result of a busy schedule, or is it that Ole and United in general are mismanaging their players?
I think Ole is in trouble in the sense that he knows he has to play these players to win games. It's a must for him. Whereas, you see so much more rotation under managers like Guardiola. Rashford wouldn't, if he was under Guardiola, he wouldn't be playing right now. He'd have an operation. He'd be on the sidelines because they've got, quality players to bring in. Whereas our team isn't fantastic, and without Rashford, without the goals and assists, Ole's stuffed, essentially. So I saw something earlier on Twitter which was interesting, that his brother commented on something either today or yesterday and was told to delete it by the looks of it because and he mentioned someone asked him a question about Rashford's injuries and he said he's been injured since 2019. So if he's not careful, he'll keep playing. He will keep playing because they'll just inject him before every game and say, okay, carry on, keep playing. And he'll keep going. This 2-week break for him has probably been a massive relief because he's been playing so consistently for a long period of time with an injury. But his career could be over by the age of 28. We could be looking at another Michael Owen. And that would absolutely break my heart to see someone like Rashford not go into the latter stages of his career still being a top player. And that could happen. And Ole does it. He mismanages the team. So Pogba has been absolutely slated for his injury record. But if I recall last year, he was brought back from an injury to play against Rochdale and then got injured in that game and didn't play again. A game that, by the way, we only won on penalties. So he mismanages players and people overlook it and go, yeah, it's fine. Rashford's just, he's just a little bit injured. I'm pretty sure he's got a floating bit of bone in his ankle, and he has since Jordan Henderson, clumped him in 2019. I'm pretty sure that's when it was anyway. And he's been playing with a back injury as well. I know he had that sort of sorted, but talk of him doing an interview earlier in the season with Giggs and he couldn't sit down. So honestly, why is this being overlooked as, he'll just get on with it? He won't, because his career will be over in 5 or 6 years. because he'll have so many injuries and he just won't be able to walk at this rate. So my main suggestion would be he'll want to play Euros, which is fair enough. And if in that time frame, screw it, just get him fit. If it means having him fit for next season, fully fit for next season, and doing the operation now, just do it. Because the more you play him, the worse it's going to get, the longer it's going to take for him to recover. And that will keep happening. So Ole mismanages his players in terms of injuries. We've seen it so often. And then the players get the blame. It happens every time. So I don't know what else to say. Why aren't people looking at that?
Well, I'll come to you then, Henry. Do you think this is Ole mismanaging him and playing him when he shouldn't? Or do you think this is a problem for the medical staff saying that, yes, he's able to play and not stepping in and intervening in that sense?
Yeah, I don't know. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and we don't know the conversations that are being had. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Where the problems really lie. I think there's definitely been occasions where I've seen team news come out, and I'll look at it and think, why is he playing there? Well, why is he not playing there? He seems to a bit peculiar the way he chooses his teams. I remember earlier in the season, Fernandes playing in. It was a dead rubber Europa League game. It might have been, one of the lesser Champions League games or something. What was that? Sorry,
it was Sociedad. Yeah. He put his strongest team out in that game.
Yeah,
4-0 up.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Under 12s in that game and won.
I know.
It was shit.
Yeah, I know. But he put Fernandes out in that game, and then he won't put him out in the FA Cup against Leicester until about the 60th minute or whatever. So I think there's definitely some inconsistencies and some, quite baffling decisions. On Rashford, I think it's blatantly obvious. I'm not a medical professional, but I think you can clearly see there's been problems there, and there has been for quite a while. Not going into headers, 50-50s, just limping around a bit, looking, disinterested. I don't know if there's it's had a bit of a mental toll on him. This pain. I think the back injury is probably the most prominent one that we've seen over the past couple of years. And as you say, we've seen him rushed back into games far too often, and it doesn't benefit anyone really. I'd understand if he's playing Rashford injured and he's scoring winners every game, but sometimes it's like playing with 10 men. You're not having good games, Rashford. He's been thrown out on the left-hand side and he walks around and mopes around. And there was that video, wasn't there, at Palace of Maguire just going mad at him. Just get on side. He's struggling to move, and whether that's to blame him or the fact that he's been rushed back, I'm not too sure. But there's no point in playing him if he's going to be walking around as he has done in some games. So I'd say just rest him. Let's get him back to full fitness, especially now. If we're going to look at progress and think about, the long term, next season we want to be fighting for a lot more than we fought for this season. Hopefully we'll be back in the Champions League and ready to fight for that again. So I think for now, for the rest of the season, you may as well give Rashford all the time he has to recover and just try and get him back for next season.
Do you guys remember that 60-yard sprint he did against City? That one sprint we saw in 5 or 6 games. Came off injured after.
Yeah.
Says it all, doesn't it?
That's a good point. It's a good point. There's definitely problems there. I think it's obvious for us all to see. And I'm happy he didn't play for England. I was desperately worried that Southgate would shoehorn him in. Obviously when the squad was announced, I thought we're in a bit of trouble there. He's going to play some games against San Marino.
Good medical staff there.
Yeah,
people that won't bash his ankle with a hammer trying to get it to work.
Yeah, well, we don't know though, do we? The conversation that was had there. Maybe United have said, you can take him, but don't play him. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's hard to say what the conversations have been, but yeah, I think there's definitely some inconsistencies there with Ole, and probably an area of management that he probably has to get better at.
Yeah, it's definitely a concern, but we'll move on from that just to get on to the next thing. Obviously, John Murtough coming in as technical director. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Anyway, I think this is something you wanted to talk about, Henners. It's whether this is a case of, was this a good appointment, or is it papering over the cracks, or is it just to get people off the back, or what is it? So what do you think it is to start off with, Henners?
To stop people robbing Ed Woodward's house. I think that's the main one. No, I don't know. I don't think it makes a huge difference. I think it's been massively overstated. Everyone's going, whoa, technical director, oh my God. And then we look at him and we think, this guy's been at the club for 7 years. He's not exactly going to make a huge change, is he? So, yeah, they're still going to answer to the Glazers. Nothing's going to change about that. They're not going to go, oh, yeah, we'll mosey off and get a hedge fund or something. That's not going to happen. So they're still answering to the same people at the top. Whether the deals will be better and better structured, we'll wait and see this summer. But, Yeah, I wanted to get Henry's opinion on this because my take is that it doesn't change a huge amount, does it? But I don't know what other people think. So, yeah, Henry, what are your thoughts on it?
I think it's a positive step in my opinion. I think you can look at that. You can say he's been at the club for 7 years. We can complain. We can say he'll be a Glazer puppet or whatever. But I think this is something we've all wanted for a while. I think now we've got it. We just need to see and wait and see how it goes. Really, this first summer will be quite telling. To be honest, he seems, from what I've seen, obviously there's not massive evidence out there. He hasn't come from another club. We can't see who he signed. So he's relatively inexperienced in this sort of field. But from what I've seen, he seems like a pretty clever guy. Been involved, heavily with United behind the scenes over the years, especially with, I think, youth and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we've all read, I'm sure you guys have as well, about the sort of fallings out of Nicky Butt that have got a lot of people, talking and frustrated. I'm not really sure why. I don't know. Nicky Butt isn't some, he's not like Eric Harrison or whoever else. He's not some massive, ridiculous football expert.
They hate each other.
Yeah,
they absolutely hate each other.
Yeah, that seems to have got under some people's skin and say, "Oh, why have we gone? Why have we?" I think it's complaining for complaining's sake. Why have we gone with Murto ahead of Butt? Butt's a legend.
To be fair, Nicky Butt's been phenomenal with the youth setup in the last. You look at the players that are coming through. He was responsible for players like he was in the system when Rashford was coming through and recommended some of these players for the first team. So
I think United have got to take a side on that, and we all want United to be ruthless and less sentimental, and I think that's what they've done with this Murto thing. And rather we've gone with Butt, they've gone with Murto, and we'll see. Really, it's hard to predict what's going to happen because, as you say, they're always going to be answering to the Glazers no matter what. Whoever's in that role, if it was Luis Campos or if it's John Murto, they're always going to be answering to those above. But for me, I think we've got to stay positive about it because it's something we've all wanted for a long time, and we yet to see how it's going to go. So yeah, I'll give him at least this window to sort of to prove himself really and see what he can do.
Yeah, I hope it turns into a good move because you got footballing people in footballing places, which whether it's the right person or not is a step in the right direction from having a businessman in there. And I think you look at the way Ole makes signings now. He's looking. Obviously, disregard Cavani in this, but his targets have changed from Galacticos to young players that you can mould into quality players in the future, haven't they? With the Wan-Bissaka, your Amad Diallo, your Dan James when he came in. So you're looking for young raw talent. That's John Murto's specialty. He specialises in youth, in the youth. That's where he's been at United. So I think, as far as first technical directors go, I don't think it's a bad appointment. Whether he'll be here for a long time or not is interesting to see. But Hennes, do you have anything else to add on the technical director?
I just think it's I don't know. I'm so torn on this because I do feel sorry for Nicky Butt and like no disrespect to Darren Fletcher, but how he's got that, I'll never know. How he's got that kind of negotiator job, I'll never know. For starters, it's not a knock on Scottish people. I can't really understand them that much, so I can't imagine many European players are going to. Sorry, I thought I had to say that. I couldn't understand Ferguson for the life of me, and Ronaldo's even said in interviews, going, "I couldn't understand what you were saying half the time. You just shout at you." So, but yeah, I mean, if you're going to get someone, you've got to go with a little bit more experience there because I think, yeah, he knows the club, which is fine. You don't want to have Ed Woodward showing you around the training ground because it's a bit like, yeah, this guy's a bit of a knob, isn't he? So you don't want to have him showing you around. But yeah, I think it's a bit of a weird one. It could turn out fantastic. It could turn out to be a stroke of genius. You don't know, but it just seemed a bit odd. And then Nicky Butt leaves, and it's just like 2 steps forward, 1 step back almost, and it's a bit frustrating. So
yeah, fair enough. Well, moving on to the last thing then. Obviously, the game with Brighton coming up at the weekend. Obviously at home, which is probably not an advantage to us, and it's a Brighton team that are a very good team, just lacking any sort of competent striker. So, I'll come to you first, Henry. What are your thoughts going into the game?
I think I'm quietly confident. I don't know. It's always tough to say you're confident with United, especially coming off the back of international break. I don't know. We can't remember whether we won or lost the last. I think we lost last game, didn't we, Leicester? But there's the patchy form. You struggle to think of how we're actually playing going into the international break. Yeah, I'd back us to beat them. As you say, at home, Old Trafford. Probably better if we were away, to be honest. Good memories at the beginning of the season, to be fair, when obviously the Fernandes after the final whistle, goal, which was good fun. Rattled a lot of cages. So hopefully we can get something similar to that on Sunday. To be fair, a bit of controversy, annoy people, but yeah, I think I'd be confident. Really, I'm not a massive fan of Brighton. I know a lot of people wax lyrically about Potter. I think a load of rubbish playing. I think far too naive. People, look at the XG. I couldn't give a shit about the XG, to be honest. I think they're pretty naive the way they play. I think they could yet go down. We'll see what happens with Newcastle. So I know people bash Newcastle and Bruce, but I think he's probably more versed to keeping his side up than Potter. Personally, I'd say so. At least that might be a controversial take, but I'd back us to beat them. Now I've gone on and said all this about Potter. We'll probably get beat 3-0 at Old Trafford or something stupid, but I'm quietly confident, to be honest.
Well, I'll come to you, Hennes, because I feel like I'm right in believing that Brighton are probably your second Premier League team. You talk well about them, given that you used to live there as well. So how are you feeling coming into the game?
Oh God! Honestly, I'm not. I'm never confident against the lower sides. I'm just not, and I think that comment says it all. And I think people that haven't watched Brighton consistently over this year won't understand because they don't score many goals or whatever, and that's fine. If they had a competent striker, they probably score 3 or 4 a game because they are pretty. They create so many chances, and they create. Yeah. They create a lot of chances. They do. They've got some good attacking midfielders. They just don't have a striker that can kind of back it up with finishing. So, and Danny Welbeck scoring a 25-yard goal against Newcastle that was a slap in the face for Steve Bruce. And do I think Brighton will stay up? It looks like they should. In the current situation they're in. I wouldn't say Steve Bruce is a specialist in keeping clubs in the Premier League because at the moment he looks sweaty and nervous every single game that they're playing without, Sam Maximan and Callum Wilson. They look screwed. So, they're a threat and don't discard them as this side that just because they're down the bottom of the table, they're not a very good team. They play good football. I think Potter's got he's got a degree in like psychology or something. So his teams they may seem naive, but they're drilled to a T, and they absolutely love that manager. You see the way they throw themselves in front of the ball when shots are coming in and stuff. They would die for that manager. So I think they're a threat, and people can't overlook them as just another stepping stone because we did that with Sheffield United. We did that with West Brom. We do that with all the lower sides. We go, it's all right. We'll just brush them aside. I'm more worried about games like this than I am about coming up against Liverpool or Arsenal or City because I know that we're not going to be counter-attacking as much and we can see 2 or 3 chances a game because we always do. And Brighton, again, if they had bought Ollie Watkins in the summer, they'd be comfortably mid-table right now. Comfortably. Maybe even pushing further up. Because they'd finish, so many more chances. So, they're fighting for their lives. They're not coming out there to get rolled over. They're coming out there to fight, and more of their players have been off on the international break as well. So they're more fresh, they're fitter, whereas a lot of our players have been playing and travelling and whatever. So we could see a big performance from United, but we could also see us, scrape to a 1-1 draw or lose. So I'm not overly confident about this.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I'll bring it back to you, Henry. That we got a comment earlier, saying that Greenwood and Rashford are out for Sunday. Now, I'm not sure if that's confirmed or not, but we'll take it as gospel for the minute and assume it's true. How do you set up this team against Brighton? Because obviously we've seen that we don't have much depth, no matter what we think. The depth is not there for this squad. So how do you set up with those two assumingly out?
I don't know. It's tough, really, isn't it? I've forgotten what a squad is, let alone who's injured and who's not. So I'd say before the international break, I thought Dan James was in really good form. I was for most times I've been impressed by him, and Johnson said Diallo, maybe a chance for him to start. I'd say probably not. I don't know if this is the game. This is the game for him to start. If I'm completely honest, we'll see. Ollie might back him and go for him. I'd say James on the right, and then you've got an interesting choice there with on the left and up top. I'd probably actually go. I know he doesn't like playing that. I'd probably go Martial on the left and then Cavani down the middle. I'd probably go with that, to be honest. If it was my choice, I know Martial don't like tracking back as we've become aware with over the years. But I think he's still decent out there. Can beat your man. He's good coming in on his right, as we've seen over the years with those sort of like far post goals that he scored. Cavani, I still back the Cavani resurgence. I think we get to see Cavani get back into fully fit and score some goals, which I will back to happen. And as someone said there, Martial as well got injured for France. Yeah. To be honest, I completely forgot about that. But you're right, he did.
Fred and Pogba on the left. Oh no! Oh God!
McTominay false 9. Run it back to the youth days. Give Scott a chance at 9.
Please just put him anywhere but in midfield with Fred. Put him centre back. Put him right back. I don't care. Just please don't put him in midfield with Fred. I can't stand another day of watching those two go sideways and backwards. God.
They will start though. You must know that. I think they definitely will start on Sunday, whether we like it or not. But
it's a given, isn't it? Even if Martial is fit, then Pogba's place on that left will be sacrificed just to maintain this McTominay and Fred double pivot. But Henry, how do you see us setting up for the game?
Yeah, I think Cavani will start up top. I think it'll be the usual suspects. It will be McTominay and Fred, and it will be Lindelof and Maguire. I'm not sure who's going to start in goal at the moment. I still think Henderson might. But if he goes back to De Gea, he goes back to De Gea. There's nothing you can do about it, really. It's his decision. So, James on the right, either Pogba. I don't think Martial will be fit. It didn't look great coming off with a knee injury. Is never a good thing to put someone in, especially Martial half fit. Martial fit and like kind of moseying around is annoying to watch. Martial half fit and moseying around is going to be painful to watch. So, I think he'll go with Pogba on the left. I wanted to ask something about Cavani, right? So he's missed about 14 games this year through injury or suspension. Is it worth giving him a new contract? Because I'm really not sure now. I don't think it's a great idea because he's injured a lot. Henry, what do you think? Because I know you're a massive Cavani fan. So
yeah, no, I'm a massive Cavani fan, but I still think that question is, really valid. I think there's definitely a strong debate to be had. There's ups and downsides to it. Obviously, sadly, he's missed a lot of games, which has really, been a disappointment and upsetting for me. Because, in my opinion, our best number 9 by quite a stretch. So, I want to see him playing week in, week out, and we haven't been able to see that. It looks as if the club want to keep him. To be honest, I find it quite interesting. I know this is a bit of a trivial thing, but social media, and Facebook and Twitter, they're always posting pictures of him and like pictures of him in training gear and all the things like that, which tap into the South American, Uruguayan audience, perhaps. So I'd imagine the club want to keep him. Ole always speaks very highly of him, and obviously, I'd like to keep him, but it's just whether he can get those games in. And he's obviously on a decent wage as well. It's not like he's been paid, peanuts. He's definitely on. I'd say upwards of in and around 200 grand a week, I'd imagine. Maybe even, a bit more with United. Who knows at this point? But yeah, I'd like to keep him, but maybe we see into the end of the season. We've got a couple more months now to see if he can stay fit for these last 2 months. If he can't, then I'd imagine the club are quite close to saying they're sort of one sort of decently long-term injury away from saying there's no point in keeping him. At which point you've got another headache. The summer's coming up, another striker will have to sign, whether they go with a Cavani 2.0, if you like, a revamped Cavani, an older striker, maybe a surprise Sergio Aguero transfer, as some have maybe been, ridiculously suggesting, or whether they then go and have to spend the money on a top number 9. And I feel like that could get extremely messy. I don't know. Haaland is going to get into a massive saga, which I think is going to, massively annoy people. People are probably bored of it already, to be honest, hearing about Haaland and where he's off to, whether it's City. Chelsea seems to think they've got a chance, by the way, which God knows where they get that confidence from. But we'll have to see whether, there's another headache to be had if we do let him go. Harry Kane, bloody hell. The things I do for Harry Kane at United, the mind boggles, the goals. I love Harry Kane. Everyone knows what I think of Harry Kane. That'll be a ridiculously good transfer.
So if I'm correct, I've seen all this stuff coming out over the last few weeks about, the media being briefed by the club essentially on there's going to be one big transfer this year. guys, you can't have 2, you can't have 3, you can't have 4, you can't have Kunde, you can't have Kane, you can't have Sancho. You've got to pick one because it's not going to happen. You know, we're going to get Milenkovic and Douglas Costa on a free. That's what's going to happen this summer. You know, it's honestly, it's. I know we're saying we need a top striker, and I completely get that. I really do. I understand that. But it looks like there's going to be one big signing. So you've got to pick. Do you still want Fred and McTominay in defensive midfield next year? Because it looks like Pogba is... Kane's got glass ankles. That's my worry with him. If he gets an ankle injury, he's out for like 2 months. So, but going back to the original thing, if Pogba leaves, then we're light in midfield again. So we've got to pick and choose. You know, I'm sure they'll be doing it right now, you know, ticking people on their list and crossing people off. Guarantee you, Haaland is a no right now. That is probably, well, most likely not going to happen. Sancho, maybe, but I think, you know, again, they'll go, yeah, we've got Ahmad. That'll be the response. We'll just keep Ahmad. We've got Ahmad, fine. He'll be playing next season. Then you've got defensive midfielder. You need one of those because Fred and McTominay, oh my God. If you're looking to get far in the Champions League with those two in defensive midfield, give your head a wobble, lads, because that is not going to happen. So you need one of those. And then, you know, we want a backup right back. And then we want a striker. You've got to pick one position because it's not going to be a walk in the park and you're not going to go and pick up players, you know, spend £200 million. Haaland's agent and dad have been in Catalonia today, according to Fabrizio, looking at a move to Barca, or I can't imagine they're going to plunge themselves into like more and more debt, which would be a bit weird if they went and signed him. So, but yeah, we've got to pick and choose who we want. Because the owners, they're already briefing the media saying we're going to spend £70 million or 70 million euros on one big signing, and the rest will be meh signings. So if they're doing that already, which they never do, if they're doing that already, saying, yeah, there's not going to be much activity at United, we're going to have another Lee Grant, Dalot, and just a garbage window because they'll get second, they'll take the Champions League money, and they'll go, fantastic. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be sacked in November.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I don't know if you have anything to add on that, Henry, before we wrap it up.
No, I think he's got a great point. I think, you know, we have got to pick and choose our battles really with regards to transfers. You know, as much as we'd all love to see it, you know, we'd love to see, you know, Kunde, Declan Rice, Kane, Sancho, whoever else. It's not going to happen. I think, you know, the club have got to be smart with the way they spend. I think, you know, there's always usually, I would say there's always, but, you know, when we've seen one big marquee signing, there's usually a few more around them for less of it. I mean, you know, Harry Maguire was, 80 million. Wan-Bissaka was done for, 30, I think, 35. And then James, wasn't it, as well? Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. We've got to prioritise what we think's most important. I know a lot of people would say they'd prioritise Sancho over anything else, really. I'd probably disagree, only if it was for certain players, though. I think if Harry Kane's available, I'd put Kane over literally any other position. I don't care who else is available. Go and get Harry Kane. He's the best striker on the planet. That's the kind of player United should be, you know, vowing to get. So Haaland as well. If Haaland's available, I think, you know, the impact them that Haaland or Kane would have would be much more than Sancho, in my opinion. But yeah, as you say, we've got to pick, choose our positions. I still think, as you say, what I'd say is a Matic replacement, like a proper base to free up, you know, whoever else, Pogba, if he's going to stay around them, would be key. That's obviously important. Right winger, obviously, can't remember, you know, what a natural right winger's like, really. You know, proper you know, starting right winger week in, week out. You know, you could say we've got Diallo and James and whoever else, but, you know, a proper starting top right winger has been few and far between at United over the years. And, you know, striker, we've got a problem as well because a lot of people don't like Martial. I can see why. I'm not a big fan of his, to be honest. Cavani's, you know, getting on, you know, looking like he's probably gone in the summer as well. There's quite a few positions we've got to target, and it'll be interesting to see how the club deals with it, really.
That defensive midfield of Brighton's is stronger than our defensive midfield position right now, with Lallana and Bissouma. Those two are. I know people love McTominay. I think he's fantastic and think he's a second coming of Pogba or whatever. Lallana and Bissouma are a better partnership than McTominay and Fred. Just going to put that out there. Bissouma, by the way, would walk into that United side right now. Fantastic player. So underrated. And Lallana's come back fit and look like a top-class player. So it's worrying that we're looking at a Brighton team and thinking, yeah, Trossard's probably better than Dan James as well. I mean, he scored an absolute worldie for Belgium. And if he's getting in that national team, he's not a bad player. So we're looking at their team now thinking, if we're looking at a defensive midfield partnership that's like a level on par with Brighton's, we've got a problem. We've got a real problem. So,
yeah, fair enough. Anyone got anything else to add before we round off?
All I'd say is I think you're being a bit harsh on McFred. I know they're not fantastic, especially in smaller games. I don't like them together, especially Fred. I think Fred turns the ball over a ridiculous amount. I think he's pretty poor, Fred, in general. But let's not forget some of the games those two have had over the years. PSG springs to mind. Could Lallana and Bissouma, drop a masterclass in a game of that stature? Just something to consider.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what they
We will see
on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
We will see. Last thing we've got to do then. I know you hate this, Henners, but I need a prediction at some point. So why not today? Predictions for the weekend?
I would be overly confident, but I'm not. So I'm going to go with 2-1 and we scrape it. And it's a same old story with a Bruno penalty. So
Henners, Henry, sorry, how you feeling?
I reckon 2-0 United, Eddie Cavani brace.
Let's hope so. I'll go 2-1. I think Greenwood's going to get on in the act finally. He's got to have a good game soon.
Who's going to score for Brighton? Let's do a roulette.
Harry Maguire.
It's got to be Welbeck. Surely Welbeck's a banker on that.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Honestly, the guy scored the first 25-yard goal I've ever seen him score in his career against Newcastle, and it was a fucking worldie as well. It's a hell of a hit.
He's done all right this season, isn't he? I think he's a bit of
he kind of runs a lot, but other than that, he's got like one or two goals, which I think Trossard will score for them. I do, because I think he's a fantastic player. I honestly really like him. Talented player, really is.
Danny Welbeck, 30-yard bicycle kick winner incoming last minute. That's all I'll say. But yeah, that's all from us. Thank you to Henry for joining us. It's always brilliant to have you on. Be sure to go and check him out on Twitter if you haven't already somehow. But thank you to everyone watching and everyone who contributed in the comments. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Manchester United are the champions of Europe again.